Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Friday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. I don't think you're going to like me very much today. Not that anyone liked me before I did this video anyway. And I do feel that popularity is an overrated virtue. So James Gunn was on Twitter and X and on Instagram bragging with a picture with Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's grandson or grandsons or whoever they are. He had a signed copy by Jerry Siegel, I think, of Action Comics. And I think Jerry's grandson or Joe's grandson sent it to him. That's great PR, but James, you're going to have to do more than that to honour them. I'm going to honour them when the original Superman is a public domain and we're actually going to adapt his Superman. His Superman is so different to the actual Superman you see in film, in television and in comics today. They changed everything about their creation so they didn't have to pay them as much money. Absolutely disgusting. Anyway, I'm going off topic. So this is great PR. James Gunn is very good at self-promotion. And obviously it makes sense to be a supporter of Jerry and Joe, the people who created Superman. Nerds loved that. I loved it when I first saw him post it yesterday, and I was speaking about, I quote posted it on Threads and on Twitter, talking about how Superman has always been there at the lowest stages of my life. Probably saved my life. So I love Superman, as you all know. But I want to talk about something else which is connected to James Gunn's Superman movie. So bear with me. Now, is there any Euphoria fans in the house? Bear with me. I'm not here to talk about Euphoria, but this is important. So Euphoria is one of the most watched streaming shows on HBO Max, right? HBO Max and HBO. Well, it's Max now, isn't it? But HBO produce and make Euphoria. It's very popular with young people. It stars Zendaya. You've got Sydney Sweeney in it. It's a very popular show. A couple of weeks ago, Sydney Sweeney, should I say, said she was very much looking forward to getting back to work to start shooting season 3, and she should be getting scripts soon. Well, the other day, we found out that they're actually telling the actors that season 3 is being rewritten and reworked, and they can actually look for other acting jobs. As soon as I saw it, I called it. Yeah, this guy who barely has any followers on Threads, Instagram, and Twitter, right, called it straight away. Basically, it's fucked, it's finished. There will be no more Euphoria. Remember, WB own HBO who make Euphoria. Remember that. It's very, very important with what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to try and prolong a conversation about Euphoria, but bear with me. So I called it that basically this is double talk for them cancelling it. They don't want to admit they're cancelling it, but Euphoria will be no more. Anyway, an actor on the show has spoken to someone in confidence saying, and obviously they don't want to disclose their name for obvious reasons, that this person who works on Euphoria believes that Euphoria isn't going to have a season 3 and we'll never see a brand new episode of Euphoria again. So that's very interesting. But you're asking me, Mick, what's this got to do with Superman and DC Universe and DC Studios? A lot. Because if they're willing to lie about a show being cancelled and pretending it's not being cancelled and just saying they're delaying production, why would they do that? Well, it's a very interesting situation, isn't it? We know WB are fucked. We know they've barely got any money. Maybe they're so fucked they can't even afford to make Euphoria. Sounds outrageous. Now, let me ask you another question. And I know that some of you have suspected this at the same time. Do we actually believe that James Gunn's Superman movie is really in production? I'm not saying it's not, I'm just suspicious. And to be honest with you, as I've given you all the official news for the film and the DC studio stuff, I've suspected the same thing, that Superman being in principal photography is just a facade. As I said earlier, James Gunn's very good at PR. He's very good at selling himself and the films that he's making. He's very good on social media. He has a lot of fans. But that's the question I'm asking you today. Is it possible that James Gunn's Superman isn't actually in principal photography? It's not actually happening, and the whole thing is a lie. As I say, if now again, this is all allegedly, right? Because we don't know for sure. But if an actor from Euphoria is saying that they're not so sure Euphoria will even get a season 3, if the actor is right about this, and I've been hearing whispers from people from my sources as well, then they are lying, right? Why are they lying? Why are they suddenly, they were gearing up for season 3, now they're delaying season 3. Apparently they're going down another direction. That's sudden. A new creative direction. That's interesting, isn't it? So, you may never see a brand new episode of Euphoria again. Now, I've never watched Euphoria. I've just seen the marketing and promotion, and it looks so depressing, so drab, and it's typical of the kind of stuff we see on television today. I mean, I saw some clips of Benioff and Wise's Free Body Problem. And please don't shoot me for saying this, because I mean no disrespect to the cast, but this has to be probably one of the most unattractive casts I've ever seen in a TV show, streaming show, or in a movie. Now, that's interesting because these days the PC mob are casting more diverse actors and more unattractive people who look like us. It's all about seeing yourself on the screen. But me, an ugly man, I don't want to see ugly people. Sorry to say this, and I'm changing the subject, but I'm going with the whole Euphoria thing. But everyone wants to see glamorous, interesting people on the screen. It's the way it's wish fulfillment. We wish we were those people. Not just because they're attractive, because they've got cool personalities, and they're heroic, they're villainous, and they're cool. People are not cool on TV, streaming, and movies anymore. Just the point I wanted to make. Anyway, so if they're willing to lie about, Euphoria not happening anymore, right? And they're selling this spin that it's gone back to the drawing board because, they're rethinking it creatively. It doesn't actually make any sense, does it? The cast were ready to go. And now it's being delayed. And there doesn't seem a good reason to delay a popular show unless it's not happening and that they don't have the money to make it. Because we all know that WB are screwed financially. And we all know next month when they can legally sell or merge the company, they will. And I think that Universal will definitely, Comcast Universal will swallow up WB, but the deal will take probably about 18 months to go through, around 2 years. It takes a very long time. When AT&T bought, WB off Time Warner, it took a very, very long time because the government have to give it the green light. And it's going to be hard for Universal because they're so huge. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of boxes they're going to have to check there. But that's what I believe is going to happen because Universal is the biggest studio, most successful studio in Hollywood. And it has been for the past maybe 5 years. The Illuminations deal they have is huge. Christopher Nolan's movie last year. I forgot the name of that movie. What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, yeah, that made nearly $1 billion. They're doing very well. They're the only Hollywood studio actually making a profit right now that fans don't actually hate. Fans hate Disney. Fans hate WB mostly for what happened during the DCEU. right? Universal seem to be the only kind of clean studio, or as clean as it can be. But doesn't Universal own Nickelodeon? That's a bit of a problem with kind of the problem, the historical abuse stories coming out at the moment. But I'm sure they'll find a way to clean it up. But anyway, so is there a possibility that Superman isn't being made, that James Gunn's Superman isn't being made? Is very, very interesting, isn't it? And I spoke about this the other day briefly. When you look at the new Superman insignia, which is a Kingdom Come insignia, it still has the same material as Cavill's costume. So, as I say, I'm an intelligent guy. I'm a functioning human being. I'm not saying you should believe this, that you should think this, but I think that one thing, the euphoria situation, does create an interesting mode of thinking. And I think that, and they'd get away with it, by the way, if they were lying that they were making this Superman movie, they'd get away with it. If it came out, it wouldn't be good for their reputation, of course. But what you've got to understand is, everyone, and this is very, very important, that this entertainment industry, Hollywood studios, networks, and streamers have never been lower. Never. They are in so much trouble. They financially tank their own studios and networks and streamers by basically driving out titans of industry and working with the lowest of the low just to tick boxes, right? They've put idiots in charge of their companies, and now they're paying the price. And no one's paying the price more than WB. I spoke, I think many moons ago, I spoke about even DC Studios being a facade. Now, DC Studios still doesn't have an official social media account. Why? Are they going to launch it on the day of Superman's release? Are they going to launch it when Creature Commandos comes out? Now, you would expect to see Creature Commandos come out, right? Has it been made? According to James Gunn, you're going to have to take his word for it, right? I'm not going to go out on a limb and call the man a liar, right? But he has been caught out in untruths before, as we all know. But is this Superman film actually being made? It's a possibility that they're lying about it being made, because they're trying to make DC Studios and James Gunn look like a working factory that's actually doing things. So, like a week or so ago, we heard they're developing a Teen Titans movie. Hey, that will be exciting. James Gunn hasn't actually clarified these reports that came from Variety, Deadline.com, and THR, the Hollywood Reporter. So the sources are top notch, and Gunn hasn't confirmed or denied it, because it's good. It's good for WB's kind of share prices to have these announcements. Not that the share price is actually going up many times. And I know that a lot of fans are keeping their eye on that situation. But I think I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm saying there's a possibility that James Gunn isn't actually making this movie. He made a very interesting claim that Superman is being made totally in IMAX. I was very surprised by this, because that's a very, very, not just a physically difficult undertaking, if you understand, the size of an IMAX camera, but the expense of an IMAX camera. And I don't know if I don't know how it works, how many they would need if it's just one. But yeah, that's a very, very expensive business. So interesting. I mean, I'm not really about the visual kind of, I don't care if it's made in IMAX. I want to see a great Superman movie. I don't care what cameras you're using, son. But he is very good with the PR. So the whole Jerry and Joe thing, the whole, I had his grandkids here, I had them at the script reading, one of his grandsons, Jerry or Joe, sent him a signed copy of Action Comics #1, all of that. It's all very good PR. It still doesn't win the general audience, but it does win over nerds. It won me over. I was very excited to hear that. It's a good thing. But taking photos with people, having selfies with people, doesn't mean jack shit to me. At the end of the day, the best thing you can do is make the greatest Superman movie possible. And we may see if he's capable of this or not. But is this movie being made? It's an outrageous claim. And at the moment, I'm not even making a claim. I'm saying it's just a possibility that that film isn't being made, because it's interesting. There's some interesting things are happening. There's certainly some red flags, and the euphoria situation certainly got me thinking, and I think, are we being conned? Because I think modern day entertainment is full of black artists and con artists. They're very, very desperate people, and their companies and their industry is on its knees. Make no mistake about that. This industry is on its knees. As I said earlier, they've never been so lower than they are now. They're hiding the bigger damage. But we all know, we're in the information era, the information generation. There's nothing we don't know about this industry. And this industry has never been so low, right? And as I say, I think it's only Universal who are actually doing well. The rest of them are fucked. And actors, writers, and directors are forming their own small production companies now and trying to form kind of United Artists type kind of studios. It's very difficult to rebuild this industry because the trust has been broken, and there's no question about that. And I think when you look at WB and what happened with the DCEU and with the Snyderverse, there's no question DC fans are divided. There's Snyder fans and I Run With Gun fans. I think that's so funny. I think that's just a funny name for a fandom. They run with gun. Anyway, they're bullying each other. They're attacking each other. So there's not a lot of unity here. And here's the truth. If you loved Man of Steel, BVS and the Snyder Cut, you're not going to support what James Gunn did. And there are a lot of fans of this movie. People call, Man of Steel and BVS flops. But you can't call a Superman movie that made just shy of 700 million a flop. You can accurately say that the studio wanted to make more money. But if you take away the fact of what the other Superman movies have made during the space of time, then actually, when they were released in cinemas, no Superman movie has made more money after being in cinemas for 4 or 5 weeks than Man of Steel. Money was different when Superman 78 came out. There's no question about it. And obviously, if it was released today, maybe it'll be a different story. I don't know. But when it was released, Superman 78 made, around 400 million. And I think that Superman 2 made what? Was it about 200 million? And I think Superman 3 made about 100 million. Back then, don't get it twisted, back then, that was top draw box office, right? Big hit. Now, Man of Steel, no Superman movie has made more than Man of Steel. Unless you call BVS a Superman movie, and it's partially a Superman movie, and that made just shy of 900 million. And you can argue, yeah, but it's a Batman and Superman movie, and Batman and Superman movies should be making more money. You're right, they should be. But for an indie type of style movie that was very grounded and realistic, and really, there was a lot of dialogue in the movie, it wasn't all action, it had a slow pace for it. For a movie of that type to make that type of money, considering the hate that movie had, actually just shy of 900 million is a pretty good result, if you ask me. Again, the studio wanted to make more money. And the Snyder Cut was never released generally, internationally and nationally in theatres. But it did very well on digital and physical media and on HBO Max, because it was called HBO Max at the time. So, Snyder's three movies actually didn't do bad at all. I do agree Snyder's movies are generally more expensive to make, so maybe there wasn't a lot of profit there, but they still brought in a good, respectable amount of cash. And whether they didn't make the profit, at the end of the day, there's no way that a Man of Steel movie cost anywhere near 700 million to make a market. Maybe it did cost 300 or 400 million to get it all out there. Maybe it did, but it still made a little profit. But agreed, they wanted to make a bigger profit. But the way Snyder makes movies, that visually they look so good, and to make a movie that good visually, you have to spend a lot of money. There's no question about that. So you need to bring in a lot more money. But just shy of 700 million, just shy of 900 million is not a bad result on its own, and we should be honest about that. So there was interest. And don't forget that Man of Steel was very divisive, but still people came back on that opening weekend to watch Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. And the Snyderverse has just as many fans as it has haters. So if you love the Snyderverse, you're not going to support Gunn's movie. That is a problem. You're not going to support Gunn's universe. It's as simple as that. You're not going to be happy that he decided Henry Cavill would no longer play Superman. Now, this wouldn't have been as damaging as it is now if they didn't announce during the Black Adam movie that he was coming back. He was in a brilliant post-credit scene. We were all getting excited. And then 1 minute he was coming back and then he wasn't. This is not the way you run a company. Do you understand how fucking stupid that is? Even if you say, well, James Gunn wasn't there when it was made and then when he came in, yeah. Well, maybe they should have thought about that before they brought in James Gunn, right? They had Adby and DeLuca running DC temporarily, and because Black Adam didn't make money, it flopped, right? They decided to go a different direction. It's very flippant. It's very reactive. And WB, no matter who's run them, have always been very reactive. If they stayed the course with Snyder, right, considering Man of Steel made just shy of 700 million and BVS made just shy of 900 million, if they stayed the course with all those movies, it would have been okay in the end, right? Some people are always going to hate Zack Snyder, but they would have made money, right? And in the end, his story would have finished in the right way. I mean, are you joking me? Superman leading a metahuman army, leading ordinary human beings against Darkseid. It's fucking amazing. It would have been amazing. It would have been great. The story would have finished brilliantly. And listen, those of you who keep on saying about Batman and Lois Lane having a relationship, WB were never going to let him do that anyway, right? It was just an idea. In the process of making something, you come up with some ideas that can be perceived as dumb. And the studio will stop you if they think, no, you're crossing the line now, mate. You can't do that. And that's fine. We all come up with different ideas, right? I sometimes think of videos to do and I think, oh no, no, I can't do that. It's a bit crossing the line. So I don't do it. And maybe if you knew some of the ideas I had for videos, maybe you wouldn't like me. Not that you like me already. You're probably just watching this because you're bored, right? But that's the point. So that's neither here nor there. So the whole thing is so fucking messy, right? Even if he, and I've always said, I love Superman, I love DC, I want the movies to be good and successful, whoever's making them. So if he actually is making this Superman movie, and we don't know, because think about this, if they're trying to sell the company from next month, having a Superman movie in principal photography is a good idea. They've just signed up Timothy Chalamet for a first look deal. This is all good to sell the company, having Timothy on board, having DC projects in active development, right? But it's very interesting when you look at suspicious situations like Brave and the Bold. There's a director, there's no script, there's no casting, right? Where is it, right? Shouldn't you have already cast the Batman? Isn't that a bit dodgy? He says Batman won't play a part in Superman, which is strange because he was bragging about Superman and Batman having a big friendship, a positive friendship from the beginning in DC Universe. So he says a lot of things, but how honest is this guy? As I say, I won't say anything negative about him personally. I won't say anything negative about him as a writer-director because I think he's a capable, quite talented writer-director. I won't cross the line with him just because I'm a fan of Zack Snyder's and I'm a fan of the Snyderverse. Ultimately, I'm a fan of good DC storytelling, right? And good storytelling in general, whether it's in the cinema screen, streaming, or television. But these kind of questions have to be asked, and nobody else but me is going to ask these questions for you. Now, I don't have access to these people. I'll never have access to these people because I'm direct and I'm honest, and nobody likes that. You've seen when these fuckers are being interviewed and they're tickling them under the fucking chin. Like the guy I was talking about yesterday, who claimed he was rebooting Pirates of the Caribbean because he didn't want to wait for actors to be available. When you always have to wait for actors to be available. It's part of the fucking business. It's an obvious thing, right? So what he was saying was fucking bullshit. So I did a video challenging that narrative. That's what I do. I challenge the Hollywood narrative. There's too many lies, and I'm sick to death of Access Media acting like the people washing away, the blood that murderers cause when they kill someone. That's what Access Media are. It's just spin, spin, spin. We've got the shields spinning and spinning. We've got studios, streaming and network, bot accounts online trying to spin the narrative constantly. We know the entertainment industry now. We all do. We all know there are a bunch of blaggers and con artists, right? And there's a lot of things going on a daily basis that I don't fucking like about this modern day current industry. So it could, the whole Superman thing could be an absolute facade. The whole DC Studios thing could be an absolute facade. It doesn't really still feel like an active studio. But if they say they're making a Superman movie, of course, we have to take their word for it. But we do have to question things. So let me be clear. I'm not saying in a factual way that Superman isn't in principal photography, that Superman isn't being made. I'm saying there's a possibility that he actually isn't being made. It's interesting the kind of teases we've had for this movie. And if you were going to lie about a film being in principal photography, you would cast the kind of actors that they're casting. These are dirt cheap actors, mostly television actors, apart from a couple of people. There's no expensive actors. There's no Jor-El. There's no Ma and Pa Kent, right? Why is there no Jor-El, right? There's no origin story, right? Because doing a Krypton would be more expensive, of course. So if you're going to do a first Superman movie, for me it has to be an origin story. We'll see how it turns out, if it turns out at all. We will see what happens. But I think it's a genuinely honest and genuine question to ask. Is this movie actually being made? We've seen pictures of a bird's eye view of, the Antarctic, right? Well, that's great. Well, that doesn't fucking prove anything at the end of the day. We've seen teases. We've seen a little bit of the costume that looks very similar to Henry Cavill's costume, apart from the Kingdom Come S-Shield. So as I say, I always get suspicious. I don't trust Hollywood anyway. So it could just be my paranoia. But I think with the euphoria situation and the fact that we know they can start negotiating to sell or merge the studio from next month, I think that it's plausible to say that they're not actually making a Superman movie. They're just saying they're making a Superman movie. There's nothing else in active development. There's not. What else are they making, right? Right, let's say we believe James Gunn about Creature Commandos, right? And that's happening. Some cheap animated series, right? Let's say that's happened and he's doing it and he's working on it. Cool, brilliant, right? What else, apart from Superman, is in development? not the authority, not Batman. No, not. We're supposed to be hearing. According to Zaslav, we should be hearing some things from Gunn and Saffron very soon. So I hope they're making stuff. I hope you and I are not just being led down the garden path. But as I said twice on this video already, these are very, very desperate industry people right now, and they will do anything and say anything to survive and fix the damage that they have done.